I am your host, Jess Williamson, an award-winning business and mindset coach and a serial entrepreneur having scaled 4 successful businesses. My purpose is to help you unleash your unique superpowers and to build the life and business of your dreams. Let's get into today's episode. I am so excited to jump headfirst into today's episode with you, all around how to get featured in the press. So I'm going to be sharing with you how I have been featured in Forbes 3 times, not just once, but 3 times in Forbes. I've been on Channel 9 News on the TV. I've been in numerous newspaper articles all around Australia. I've also had a whole double-page spread in Forbes Magazine, which was super cool, walking into the newsagent to see my article across 2 entire pages. And in November alone, I was on 20 podcasts as a guest, being interviewed, sharing my story and my expertise. Plus, I was actually also the face of a Bankwest small business ads campaign. So my face and my brand were all over Australia on bus stop ads, in shopping centres, and even in a massive billboard in Sydney, right on the freeway. I got so many messages from friends in Sydney saying, "Jess, I just saw your face on a damn billboard as I'm driving down the street." Unfortunately, I didn't get a photo of it because they were driving at the time, but so many awesome opportunities have come from getting featured in the press. So those are just some of the highlights, but I have been on so many different things. You could probably just Google my name and tons will pop up. What I wanted to note was all of these opportunities were free. They were earned media. And now lately I've been getting a lot of these spam DMs saying, "Hey, do you want to be featured in the press?" Please don't pay for it. I mean, paying for press has its time and place if you want to use it as a branding opportunity. But I wanted to share this podcast to let you know that you do not have to pay for your press. And I have never paid for any of the features that I have ever had. They have all been earned media, which means that it is newsworthy media, or the journalist found the story interesting that they wanted to publish it. Now, when I talk about press, there are so many different formats. It could be newspapers, it could be online publications, it could be magazines, TV, podcasts, radio. All of this is coming under the umbrella of press for the purpose of this podcast. But what I wanted to share with you is I actually have created a free resource to help you get featured on podcasts specifically. And I'm going to share with you later in this episode why I find podcasts so helpful. But I wanted to share this up front because throughout my 7 years in business, I have lived so many lifetimes. You've probably heard a few of them and my stories on this podcast already. But I have experience in so many different areas, which is pretty cool because what that means is I get to share it all with my clients to really help them collapse time and fast track their success as well. So lately, I have been working with a few of my clients on building their personal brand. And of course, press has been a huge part of that strategy. Just last week, some of my clients have landed 2 to 5 interviews each on podcasts using this very simple strategy. So what I've done is I've packaged it together in a free resource for you as an exact pitch template that you can use when you're emailing out to different podcasts to get featured on them. I've also included my top 4 tips on getting more yeses. Because just because you send an email telling people how great you are, it does not mean they are going to, one, reply, and two, say yes. So I've pulled together my top 4 tips. And this is how I was able to get featured in 20 podcasts in November alone. And I'm still consistently doing multiple podcast interviews per month on other people's podcasts. So as a podcast host myself, I get tons of pitches every single week. And so I'm sharing my top tips in this free resource on how you can pitch yourself to podcasts and have more chance of getting a yes. So I popped the link in the show notes. You can go and download that free resource straight away on my website via the link in the show notes. Otherwise, you can head to my website, jessicawilliamson.com.au/free-resources. So you'll find it all there. And there's a few other free resources there as well if you want to check those out. So before I jump into my top tips on how you can gain press coverage yourself, I wanted to share with you some of the benefits of getting featured in the press. So maybe you're new to press. Maybe you haven't yet explored this channel in your marketing strategy. So some of the main benefits of press coverage is to really gain trust and awareness for yourself and your brand. So press doesn't typically always lead to sales. Most of the time, it didn't really generate sales for my business. But what it does do is it helps generate awareness. So you're tapping into the readership and the audience of the publication or the podcast. And when a reputable source is writing or reporting about you, it builds trust. So what I would say for any press coverage is to really make sure that you utilize and amplify the press coverage yourself. Anytime that I was featured in the press, I would use it as a branding exercise and make sure I spread it everywhere I could. I often shared my features to social media, different Facebook groups. I would send it out to my email database and basically wherever your audience is. So sometimes even when I was published in, let's say, the West Australian newspaper, for example, other publications had actually seen the story and thought it would be really relevant for their audience as well. So then I was contacted by the Daily Mail and they interviewed me and published an article on their website as well. So you never really know who will see it and contact you for future opportunities. But it really is a great way to build your expertise, to build your trust with your audience, and gain some awareness as well. But I just wanted to lead with that because some people think that as part of my marketing strategy, I need press and they jump headfirst into it expecting a ton of sales. This is a long-term strategy and it is a strategy that it really is up to you to amplify those opportunities yourself. So I had a client once who was featured in Vogue and she created TikTok videos about it. She put it in her Instagram bio. She put it on her website. She put the Vogue logo on her email signatures. And that is a really great way to just make sure that you are really maximizing this opportunity as much as you can. So now let's talk about how to actually gain some press coverage yourself. So most people don't realize that you actually pitch to the media. I've spoken to many friends and even clients in business, and they've assumed that you just have to sit back and wait for the invitation to be interviewed. But what I'll say to that is you might be waiting a long time. These journalists get so many pitches and high quality pitches for stories every single day. Sometimes you might be lucky and they may reach out, which I have had happen a couple of times, but it really is up to you to reach out and to pitch to them your story, your key take on something, your key opinion, whatever kind of publication it is. It really is up to you to pitch to them. If you want the opportunity, this is just a great lesson for business in general, and something that I've done my whole way through is if you want an opportunity, stop waiting for it to come to you and go out there and get it. So now you know you've got to pitch. How do we pitch? So you can do it two ways. You can either hire an agency or you can do it yourself. So by hiring a PR expert, the great thing about that is that they already have all of the contacts and the relationships with the key journalists. So that is really helpful. They know who to contact. They know how to pitch certain things out. But obviously, it sometimes comes as a cost. Not sometimes, it does come as a cost because you're hiring someone's services. So the other way you can do it is to do it yourself. I have done a combination of both. I have had a freelancer when I first started out helping me. I had a PR agent in LA for a while. I had an amazing PR agent here in Australia, Cass from Millennium Communications. And I've also done a bunch myself in between all of that as well. So doing it yourself can really work well because you know your business best, but then you have to go and find the contacts, which isn't too hard. Quite often there are contacts on the publication's website. You can do a little bit of LinkedIn or Instagram stalking. If you really want to, you can quite often find a way to contact them. You just won't necessarily have the relationships. But if you pitch it in a really well-rounded way that makes it super easy for them, then it's more than possible to get your own press as well. So when pitching yourself, the main things that you need to think about is what I'm pitching to them newsworthy, or will the publication's readership be interested in this? From the publication and the journalist point of view, they get tons and tons of pitches every single day. So how are you going to make yours stand out? How are you going to share something with them that's newsworthy or shocking or surprising or amazing? How are you going to send them something that their audience is going to be interested to read? Quite often, I see business owners draft up a press release or just marketing in general, and it's all about them. But we need to think about the audience first. So keep that in mind as you're creating your pitches. And also, the thing is, you can pitch your story in so many different ways. So depending on the publication, depending on the audience, you might do a more conversational piece. You might do more of a structured formal piece. You might do a Q&A style. Maybe it's more of an interview style. But you can sort of spin the story from so many different angles and recreate it based on the audience. Now, we're not making things up, but you can tell a story in a different way to be suitable to the audience. The next tip that I have is make it easy. Make it easy for them to say yes. This is just a great tip in general when you're trying to negotiate or do anything in business. Are you making it easy for them to say yes? Whether that's a customer or whether that's a journalist that you're pitching to, make it easy for them. People are busier than ever. And if it's too hard, no matter how good your story is, they're not even going to bother replying. So my top tips for that would be when you pitch them, you basically have to pitch them a complete article, basically done for them, because sometimes they will literally take what you've sent them, edit it slightly and publish it. Sometimes they may not even edit it. Other times they may take what you've got, get the gist from it, and then still request an interview with you. So Either way, you are making it as easy as possible. They could grab that, put it on their website, put a photo with it, and then you've got a published article. Some other ways you can make it really easy is to make sure that you create a file that they can access with your photos ready, with the article in a Word format, all of the things that they might need ready to go. This just saves them time having to come back and hassle you. And then there's a lot of this back and forth. Sometimes they need an article that day. And if you've just given them everything they needed to fill the gap in their publication, then they may even just grab that, put it up, and you won't even know. They won't even tell you that it's been published. So that is some of my top tips around making it easy for them to say yes. Some other things you can do is to check out the publications. Do your research and take insights from things that they have published before to make sure that it appeals to their audience. Do they use certain kind of formats for their articles? Do they use certain kind of headlines? What kind of things do they tend to publish in your category? And then build your pitch around that. Now, there are so many different types of press out there, as I've mentioned. But honestly, I've been featured on TV, newspapers, magazines, online, you name it. I've probably been in the category, right? But my favorite format right now for the maximum impact is podcasts. So I'm going to share with you a few reasons on why you need podcast interviews as part of your marketing strategy right now. Firstly, I find that podcasts are one of the easiest mediums to get featured on. They have a higher conversion rate to getting published than pitching traditional media. Another great reason is because you can reach new audiences by leveraging the listenership of the podcast. Quite often, podcasts are on the podcast, and then they might share it to their social media. They might also then share it to their email database. So you're really getting to leverage the listenership of the podcasts. In a podcast format, you can also really communicate your personality more than you can in a written format. So it allows you to share your expertise and become the go-to expert in your niche in a longer format creation. And you're getting your personality across at the same time. So when you're thinking about it, when people think whether they want to work with you or not, they're thinking, do I know, like, and trust this person? And podcasts tick all three because they get to know you, because you get to share a bit of your journey or your story or what you do. They get to like you because they can really feel your sense of personality and how you work. And they build trust because you're sharing your expertise in a deep way that they can really get some key takeaways from that. So that is really, really helpful, which then leads to possible leads and quite often sales. Now, what I will say is that podcast listenership is growing every single year. So now is the time to leverage this highly engaged and growing audience. When people listen to podcasts, they are usually possibly multitasking, but they are usually paying more attention than they would possibly scrolling social media or even just skim reading an article or flipping through a magazine. So it is a really engaged audience as well. Plus, what I love about podcasts is that you can really build real connections with other experts in your industry by collaborating, by getting to chat with them. It really helps build your credibility as well by being aligned alongside these other experts. And best of all, it is free exposure. And the reason why getting interviewed on others' podcasts is going to be more efficient than creating your own podcast is because they do the editing. They create all of the things that they need to get it out there Plus, you're being exposed to their audience, which is amazing. So I really do think that podcasts are one of the best ways to get featured and to really get your message out there and build your expertise in an industry. So, like I shared with you at the beginning, if you really want a kick-ass strategy, my 4 simple steps to getting more yeses when pitching to podcasts, plus I've given you my exact email template to get featured in a podcast, and I've included some examples of really great pitches that I have received in the past as well that you can use as inspiration, then I'm giving you that free. Absolutely free. You can go and download it via the link in the show notes or jump on over to my website, jessicawilliamson.com.au, and you can head to the free resources page and find it there. So I've blasted through a ton in this episode, so you may want to come back and re-listen to this episode as many times as you need. And I would love to know if you found this helpful. So please share this podcast episode, tag me on social media at jess.williamson8. And if you found this helpful, then I'm sure some of your friends might as well. So feel free to copy the link and send that over to them, because sharing is caring, right? So thank you for listening to me today. It has been so much fun deep diving into this. I am going to be sharing a lot more episodes like this on how to do things, because this is probably one of the most popular questions that I have been asked throughout my journey is, how have you done it, Jess? So I'm going to be sharing a ton more of that with you. So make sure you are subscribed and following this podcast so that you can get the newest episodes every week. Until next time, I hope you have the most amazing week. Thanks for listening, and I will see you on the next episode.